Um, a very good evening to everybody. I'm Prakriti Sao. I'm a second year undergraduate at IIT Bombay and an academic coordinator at Student Support Services. Today we have organized this session to help you interact with the students who are studying at the Koita Center for Digital Health. Koita Center for Digital Health or the KCDH was recently set up at IIT Bombay, and it offers a minor degree and an IISS degree in the field of healthcare informatics. Today we have 4 students from the KCDH who will be interacting with you all and letting you know about their journey and their future plans in the field of healthcare informatics. So we'll begin this session by introducing you to the 4 speakers we have. We'll begin with the introductions. Chirag, would you like to go first?
Yeah, hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Chirag. I'm a student of BS Mathematics, and I'm in my 4th year right now. And my main motivation to join this program was because I have 4 doctors in the family, and my parents are both surgeons. And it just felt right, I guess. And I also want to contribute to the field of healthcare. And of course, there is no need to mention that this field is an absolute gold mine. So that's it.
Yes. So moving on to Prakriti, would you like to introduce yourself?
I hope I'm visible. Okay, I'm visible. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Prakriti, and I'm currently in my 2nd year, and I'm in the chemical department. And I'm pursuing my minor from Kcdh, minor in the public health informatics. And so my interests, if you talk about interests, it includes reading books, mainly non-fiction books. And I like coding as well. So that's about it.
Thank you, Prakriti. We'll move on to Akshat.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Akshat. I'm doing my IEEE in healthcare informatics. I'm also currently interning at Duke University, and that's the internship that basically got interested me in that field. I'll talk more about it later on. So that's about it right now.
Thank you, Akshat. Finally, Siddharth, would you like to introduce?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Siddharth. I'm a 3rd year undergraduate in chemistry department. I'm pursuing my BS in my 3rd year now, contrary to what the poster says. And I guess I like trekking and reading books. So yeah, more coming up when they ask me about my motivation. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Siddharth. So we had our 4 speakers introducing themselves. Now we'll begin with the very first question that comes in everybody's mind. What was their motivation behind taking a step in the field of healthcare informatics? And so we'll be asking them about their basic motivation, which motivated them to take up this field, which is a comparatively new field and unknown to many people. So we'll begin with Chirag.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, okay. So I guess the question that was raised to me was like what my motivation was to join this field, and then I think I already answered that in a way. But then there was this other question that said I have to. So I have, all of you know what AI is? It's artificial intelligence, and how can AI be applied to healthcare? So that is the question that I'm going to address today. And yeah, so I'm just gonna. So these are the things that are getting bigger and bigger every passing day. So technology, the temperature, because of global warming, and phones are getting bigger every day. And these are just the things that were at the top of my head. I just put them down. But then we are obviously forgetting something, aren't we? It's the people. Population is expected to rise to 10 billion by 2050, and in India itself, it's going to be more than 2 billion. So that's a lot of people, and we need to cater to these people somehow. So what are the things that are important for these people? There's clothing, there's housing, there's food, there's water. Those are the basic necessities. And then there's, again, these are the things that came out of the top of my head. So there's the internet, the electricity, they're kind of indispensable now. There's obviously spectacles because a lot of us use it. But then again, we're forgetting something. So what is most important for people? Health. Health is, so there's a saying, health is wealth. And as cliched as that sounds, it is kind of true. So why do we need, this is the question. So why do we need health? Why do we need to amalgamate healthcare and technology? What can we achieve from this? So this is a fact. Computers, we are all engineers and we know how to deal with computers. Computers they're better at mundane tasks and very computational tasks. So for example, if there is any computer here in this room right now, I would like to give an exercise. So find the 200 millionth prime number. So that's a good exercise for a computer. But then humans, there are other humans also, and humans, we are better at answering questions like this question. So what is a prime number, right? So these questions, you can mark the contrast between these two questions, right? One is extremely computational, but the other is something that cannot be achieved by just computation. So this picture needs no explanation. Imagine the waste of time and effort, right? So now coming to AI in healthcare. This is a small excerpt from my project, my BS project, and ALL stands for Acute Lymphoblastic Leukemia, right? And it's the most common type of childhood blood cancer, and it is very progressive. And it's the most aggressive type of cancer that is known so far in children below 18 years, right? So there is a need to research more on it, and we need to diagnose it better. And so we will try to use ML, so classification, in order to conduct more research on ALL, right? So on the left, you see an ALL. So this is a lymphocyte. This is taken from the blood marrow, from the bone marrow, sorry. And then you can see what an ALL positive lymphocyte looks like. This is a sample taken from a patient. You can see the rugged edges, right? And this is a normal lymphocyte. So this looks kind of more organized. But the one on the left, it's much more random. There's raggedness in the edges. So this is just one example. And then there's another two more pictures. So this is ALL positive again. So you can see how disorganized this looks. But again, even this looks a bit disorganized, but the tissue culture, the results were that this is negative. So we need to classify. So there is a need to given a diagram, we need to classify it whether it is ALL positive or negative, right? Using machine learning techniques. And I'll tell you why we need to do this. Doctors, they have developed a significant amount of theory, and they can just say from the ragged edges that, okay, this is ALL positive. But why do we need machine learning, right? Because see, computers, I told you they were better at mundane tasks. So they can find much more differences between these two pictures. So there's a beautiful concept in statistics called principal component analysis. And this entire raggedness itself is going to be captured as one component. So that is one of the principal components, but there are much more smaller principal components, much more subtle differences that only computers can catch. And then maybe we can use those differences and we can design an algorithm, and we can establish new diagnostic criteria for ALL, right? Those subtle differences, we can take it and maybe we can find some new diagnostic criteria. And that is the project I'm currently working on. It has more than 7,200 observations. It's training data, so I have to use this data and test on these 2,500 other observations. So this is what I'm looking at. I'm trying to look for a new diagnostic criteria for ALL, and then I'm trying to explain the pattern of cell atypia. Atypia is just how abnormal a cell is. A pattern of cell atypia. I'm trying to observe it, and maybe I can get somewhere. So thank you, everybody. I'll be handing over the presentation to Prakriti.
Okay. Thank you, Chirag. That was really insightful on how artificial intelligence and health, which are very different fields, can be linked together to yield great results. So now moving on to Prakriti. Prakriti, before your presentation, could you please let us know what motivated you to take up this minor program in healthcare informatics?
Yeah. All right. So motivation. Okay. So the first thing that comes to my mind is so I have two dentists at home, my mother and my sister. So usually, when we drink tea in the evening, there is this discussion about what my sister did at college that day. So it usually revolves around the patients she got and the cases she saw and the case histories and like everything related to the diagnosis. So, that discussion has been going on for years now. And I've learned a fair bit of dentistry also. So, yeah, so the thing is that, I realized how important case history is. So, case history is basically where they take the whole uh, past medical information of the patient. So, that is very important in predicting the further course of treatment. So that was one thing. And my mom used to always say that healthcare is a very neglected field and you should do something in this. So, okay, that constant pestering also kind of made me look at this field. And apart from that, I knew about Rizwan Koita sir because my cousin used to work in his company before. So I knew about him that way. Then, yeah, so it's kind of like, uh, I have a base in programming right from school, and I used to like that a lot. And I just wanted to apply my programming skills in a very pressing use case. We're seeing COVID all around us, and we know how important healthcare has become today. So it's like, you apply your programming skills, your coding skills, and you gain new skills to apply it to a very important use case, you can say. And trust me, this field is going to boom like anything in the next few years. So yeah, I just wanted to contribute and possibly make some breakthrough. Yeah. So that is my motivation. Yeah.
Thank you, Prakriti. So moving on to Akshit, would you like to share your motivation for taking up this field? You are
Akshit,
on
you are
mute.
on mute.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
visible.
So yeah, as you can see that research in healthcare has taken a boom right now. There are, you can see several papers from Google and Stanford. Even engineers and high school students are involving ML in healthcare. So I think one of my major motivations is that ML is booming and so is healthcare, especially since COVID. And I think that just like Prakriti also pointed out, this field has huge potential as well. So as you can see, papers at the intersection of ML and healthcare have increased a lot in the past few years, and they will continue to increase uh, exponentially, in fact. So this is one of my main motivations, and also during my several projects I've done, I involved ML in healthcare, and I found that they were pretty interesting to me. So definitely, finding things interesting is uh, definitely my basic motivation, and of course, the field is booming, and that's the main thing about it.
Thank you, Akshit. So we'll be knowing about his projects in a moment after. So Siddhant, would you like to take up the question on your motivation to join the field?
Yeah. So yeah, I actually always had a childhood intrigue for chemicals and synthesizing drugs, which led me to choosing and remaining in my major, that is chemistry. And as I came to my second year, I developed quite an appreciation for the greatly complex systems of biology and how ambiguous and complex biological data is. So yeah, and also like some inspiration from Doctor House, the TV show, also helped. But yeah, alongside this, an interest for informaticizing healthcare towards personalized medicine led me to choose this minor. Before this, also like I had experimented a lot with minors. I took the bio minor from BSB and the MLAI minor, which is being offered by C Minds, which are excellent in their own right. But I realized that I wanted a flavor of both biology and informatics and everything within that realm. And so yeah, hence here I am. So that is my motivation. Yeah. Thanks.
हाँ? मैंने तो मेरा fight
Okay, thank you, Siddhant. So Kcdh offers many courses, very insightful courses, which cover many tickling and interesting topics. So the courses form the base of any center and any department, and are the main are the main source of attraction for the students. So now I would like Prakriti to talk about the courses which she has taken in the course of a minor, and the courses which she plans to take in the future. Prakriti, would you like to present?
Yeah, just a second. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
All right. So I'll take it over from here, and I'll be talking about what exactly did we learn in health informatics and what comes ahead in the minor. So, okay, so I'm starting with the programming, the tech side. So we started with Python. For those who don't know, Python is like the most important programming language if you're doing ML or data science or AI or anything of the sort. So we started with Python. We did like the basic syntax, and then we did the major data structures and all that we use over there. Then after that, we moved to MySQL. MySQL is like an open source database platform. And the CRUD elements that I mentioned over here, that stands for create, read, update, and delete. So that is basically you're creating data, reading from that data, updating data as and when you want it, and deleting data again as and when you want it. So it is basically a data organizer. So we learned about how do you query from the databases that you've created. And again, so MySQL forms the basis for all big data organizers. So apart from that software side, when we move to hardware and the theoretical aspect, we first dealt with OS performance. So OS performance, the photos that you see on the right, they are basically where we tried querying our OS. And that was a really cool part because I didn't know such a thing exists. But yeah, so through these OS queries, we tried a lot of things. We tried to see what are the peripheral devices connected to our computer, and what is the max CPU time required for certain processes, and what are the clients who are using our OS. So those things were pretty cool because I didn't know about them at all. So yeah. Then again, so networking, TCP/IP, internet, they are like the basis of any ERP platform that you want to create. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So we talked about that as well. And again, so cybersecurity was a major part of the final stages of our course, where we learned about what is cybercrime, all Trojans, viruses, worms, and why is it so important in today's world, because obviously everything is going digital. If we get the metaverse in a few years, then we won't have a real world anymore. But yeah, so cybersecurity is very important, and we talked about that as well, and how we can combat that. Okay, moving on. In the next few slides, I have added like a few snapshots of certain demos we were given. So this one is about SWOT data analysis. And this was done by Ganesh sir and his team in 2020. And it analyzes the COVID cases in the S ward of Mumbai. And Ganesh sir was our instructor for the course. I think I forgot to mention, but yeah. So what he did was he was teaching us data science, I mean, cleaning the data set, pre-processing the data set, and data visualization. He was teaching all of this theoretically to us. And on a particular day, he brought this out, this whole Google Colab notebook, and he showed us exactly how he had implemented whatever he had taught theoretically. And that was a good, I mean, we were told to explore the Colab notebook as much as we wanted. And we were actually seeing the real life application because they did this in collab with the BMC in Mumbai. So yeah, again, so cleaning, the next slide, yeah, this shows the cleaning of the data set, where they actually took the data set and they manually made canonical forms for the data entered. So again, data visualization at the bottom through bar graphs and line plots. Then, all right. After that, what we did is we analyzed certain existing HIT systems. HIT stands for Health Information Technology. And there were two like main HIT systems that we looked at. One was Balmy and one was OpenMRS. These are like two open source HIT systems. And they have like really cool features. The pictures at the bottom show those certain two of the GUIs of their platform. And they were really cool. They have a lot of different features which you won't know until you've actually seen a competitor do that. So we looked at that, we analyzed where they could have improved the GUI or some features that they could have included. So regarding this, if I can take a small digression, there was one initiative by Kcdh in collaboration with Bamni and ThoughtWorks to integrate OCR into the Bamni platform. OCR is optical character recognition, so that people who already have certain prescriptions or past medical records in writing, that can be integrated digitally. So that uses OCR, and that was one implementation, and that came through the discussions and furthering of the discussions that we had in class. So yeah, so okay, for the ones who didn't understand the meme on the right, it just says that the people who are actually the end users who are using your platform, they should have a very good experience, and the GUI should be basically very intuitive for them. And Ganesh sir has stressed on this a lot in class, and he has often told that the doctors in our country, especially in our country, they're very overworked, and I've seen that in my home as well. So they get almost about like 100 patients a day, and they don't have time for flowery GUI. So we have to make a very intuitive GUI. So we were taught about that, the easy GUIs, the interoperability for the system. So we had a discussion over this. Again, so okay, we are multidisciplinary, so we didn't stop at tech. We did a module on ethics, and this was with Professor Sibi George sir of the HSS department. And I've added just one slide over here, but we had a good like 5 lectures on ethics. And we started from the basics, from healthcare ethics. And that started with, I think, the Declaration of Helsinki and the Nuremberg Code, if you all know it. And then it went on to like research protocols, what are good clinical practices, and certain guidelines led by the ICMR. And it went on from there, and we finally concluded with what are the factors that lead to responsible big data use. So big data is basically all the huge data sets that you use in ML training, ML learning. So that should be used responsibly. Of course, you cannot like breach data security concerns. So that it was one thing we concluded the module with. And apart from this, we had another module, and this was with Dr. Puneet Mishra sir from AIMS Delhi, and he's a community medicine professor over there. So he gave us, the medical practitioner's perspective of HIT systems and what the doctor like expects from the technology person, like what the doctor wants in his system and what are the things he uses day to day. Like it's more about the system that you create should be what a person needs rather than what he what it would be nice for him to have. So that was one thing that he taught us. So he started with a lot of background. He started with public health and what is epidemiology. Then he went on to the levels of healthcare delivery in the country, and the primary, secondary, tertiary level of healthcare. And apart from that, then he talked about what AIMS journey was like, from where it started and where it is now. And they also have certain initiatives like for rural welfare. So they have certain sub-community hospitals and certain PHCs. So he talked about that as well. And although they are like on the rural side, they have a lot of technology going on. So that was the main reason he brought those out in front of us. And that was a really good module, and it was like with the doctor on ground, so we learned a lot about the medical aspect as well. And okay, so in conclusion, the course was interesting, and the reason I say interesting is because it's multidisciplinary, right? So whatever I learned in my core courses, like suppose, okay, if I give an example, I had a course on computational methods in my chemical core, and we use MATLAB over there. So MATLAB has this whole plotting. They have all these features for plotting graphs and all. So a lot of that knowledge came into use in data science, where I started using pandas and NumPy for data visualization. So The syntax is obviously different, but the core knowledge remains the same, right? So that was one thing, you get both the best of both worlds kind of thing. So I like that. And again, we had a midterm project here also in the course. And we had proposed this. We didn't want the midterm, so we asked sir to keep a midterm project, and he was gracious enough to say yes. But yeah, so in this midterm project, the best thing about this was he kept this problem statement very open-ended. Okay, it was like we have to just make something that relates to healthcare informatics, and apart from that, it's all on us, whatever we wanted to do. So that was really good because we could be really creative, and we came up with. I mean, it was very good projects in my view, and it was interesting working on those. So yeah, again, in conclusion, if you identify as a health tech enthusiast and you want to actually render your technical programming expertise, I spoke about this in my motivation as well. If you want to use your programming to a real and pressing use case where you are really affected by whatever's happening in the world today, especially people sophomores like me who haven't even gone to college. But yeah, so if you want to use those, or if you want to really make a difference, because I feel this field is going to really boom in a few years. So yeah, so then this minor or IEEE is for you. And yeah, that ends my presentation. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing, right?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Prakriti. That was really informative. Now we'll have Siddharth, who will be sharing with us some of the key projects he had undertaken and the courses he had undertaken.
Okay, hi. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So yeah, you might be thinking, what is this unholy combination coming from technology and healthcare, right? I mean, engineer and doctor are like the polar options that are usually thrust upon us as kids. Uh, but in essence, the spheres which students who take one or the other end up in their careers have huge overlaps. The potential for collaboration in these gaps is now richer than ever and is now being filled by the field which Prakriti just talked about, healthcare informatics. So yeah, that was kind of like a recap in my motivation. I'll move on to my takeaways. Yeah, I heard we were doing jokes, so a very thought-provoking and intellectual one right here. Yeah, I'll leave you guys to decipher that. Moving on. Uh, experience with related courses and projects. So yeah, DS302, which I already did, and all the stuff that you just now, which was said by Prakriti. I mean, we had informatics, management, and ethics all coming together. I mean, the hands-on project was also quite fun. So that was one of the courses that I had taken. BB626, which is a modeling biological systems course, which is also on the roster for the minor program. This is a course which I had taken. And why this course, you may ask? I mean, if the mission of Kcdh was to bridge the gap between physical scientists and healthcare professionals, I think an understanding of how many systems of biology are mathematically reducible is going to be very much appreciated. And this course like did just that. So I'll just give you a little gist of like what we did in the course. It was quite an enjoyable course, to be honest. There were coding assignments in Python, as well as we were like utilizing logic through physics type equations like ThinkJ. It gave us like an intro to really versatile tools such as Monte Carlo approaches. So one of them was the Metropolis algorithm, which we applied to various biosystems like chemical bonds in fluids, growing polymers, Brownian motion, molecular dynamics, and like in each like seemingly different scenarios, the idea of a random walk in an energy landscape was constant. So yeah, considering this, enter simulations. These simulations were like a programming assignment. It was like, finding the relevant physics differential equation and then, mapping it to an informatics problem. And like the coding and skills that we learned in the course really helped us do that. So it was, in essence, like an equation to capture its idea and then an algorithm to implement it. Again, using computation to arrive at an aha type of realization to a question or system of biological significance. We also covered like other models, right? From protein receptor binding, histone packaging, how DNA gets wrapped in those nucleosomes that you might have learned in BB 101 or will be learning perhaps. We also came to like big picture stuff, macro systems like prey-predator models. Now these would be modeled using Lotka, Volterra models, as well as epidemiology, the dynamics of disease spread. We also started from how COVID can spread from a patient zero in some village. So this was like one of the assignments that we had been given, or I think it even appeared in an exam. So yeah, I think it was in this way the course was very well structured and quite broad. So you got an understanding of biological systems that way. Coming to my projects on proteomics, I've been working in Professor Sanjeeva's lab since the summer. I've delved into a lot of things, like from molecular docking, which is like a more computational and chemical biology aspect to it. I've also done the more analytical side, which is to say bioinformatics. My project involves understanding the intricacies of cervical cancer. And we do this by capturing a snapshot of the proteome of the human body. Now, what is proteome, you ask? It's like, let's say, the entire picture of proteins in your body. And thank God that we really have this huge machine called a mass spectrometer that does this job for us. So like getting the entire protein quantification out of a sample that we feed into it. So the data actually which we get out of it once you give it a sample, such as this could be a cell line which has cancer in it, or it could be a patient, or so the data which we get out of this is raw and unprocessed. So imagine like a lot of plots and peaks, and like it's our job to convert it into a clean analyzable matrix in the end. So that's like with a number for every protein in the sample. So imagine there are like 10,000 proteins, and for each sample you feed in, you get a number in it. And now this data is like rich and very versatile. It has amazing potential. Like that the very function of DNA in your body is to make proteins via RNA, right? Proteins are the master of driving every chemical reaction happening in your body right now. So you can take this data, which tells you about proteins in a sample, and understand what biological signals may be hidden inside, like disease patients, or they may be cell lines. And these are done by finding those outlying biomarkers, special proteins that deviate from regular expression. And these are what we are detected, like when you go for blood tests in hospitals, be it for malaria, for diabetes, for prostate cancer, or even when they're trying to find risk factors when you go for your general checkup. It can tell you how to diagnose a patient years before they even actually get the disease. It can tell you the subhistologies of several different kinds of a cancer. It can tell you how various medicines can work better for one patient versus others. And hence again the concept of like personalized medicine comes into play. And these could also, like the ones which are being upregulated, as you see that one protein is like higher up in the diseased individual, those can be targets for drugs, and hence even drug development comes into the mix. So you see how it really sets the field for personalized medicine to come up. And hence that was something that I was really interested in, and something which I'm still currently pursuing. So yeah, thanks. I'll move on.
Yeah, thank you, Siddharth. That was really informative. So I'll request Akshit to share his experiences on internships and projects.
So can you view my screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. So this is my dual degree project right now. So I'll go into it briefly. So as you know that medical data sets are huge, like they have hundreds and thousands of images, and you have to label them one by one, whether they are disease or non-disease. So labeling is expensive since you require professional doctors to label them whether they are disease prone or not. So to reduce that, we train the model on a small part of the data set. So we label a very small part because that would be relatively cheaper, and we train a model on the small part of the data set. And then we test the model on the rest of the data set, which is not labeled. So wherever the model is confident of its prediction, we we label that part, and wherever the model is uncertain, we give a doctor to label that for the model. So as you can see in the image, uh, there's a model that predicts. There's a person who would tell whether the predictions are correct or not, and then the model would train on those images. So this is the essence behind active learning, and it's actually a new and emerging field. So in my dual degree project, we would apply active learning on medical images, and it has seen to be very efficient since you can get a similar performance by just using 10% of the data set. Yeah, so my professor, that is Ganesh Ramakrishnan from the CS department, he has created a library called Distill for using this, and I'm basically integrating more functions into Distill. About my internship, so the lab which I'm working with, they have developed a sensor which you can see in the image. So this image, this sensor has an accelerometer in it, and the accelerometer reads several body signals. So since it's attached to the throat, you can hear the voice of the person. You can know their heart rate, respiration rate, speaking time, and several other things. So if you know about speech emotion recognition, it is done using voice, and there are several data sets for that as well. The emotion recognition can be done using both speech and facial expression, but it's not very accurate because, of course, we all know that a person can modulate his speech accordingly and act as well. But what a person cannot completely control is their heart rate and blood pressure. So so incorporating heart rate and blood pressure through this device helps making much better predictions and is much more realistic as well because these are mostly involuntary processes. So that's in brief about my research at Duke, which I've been doing since summers, and I've come here for the winter as well. So some internship opportunities at Kcdh. Many companies have approached Kcdh, like ThoughtWorks, iHeart, Dr. Lal Pathlabs, all of you must be knowing, ICICI Health Insurance, GE Healthcare, Tata Memorial Center, you all must be knowing. One of my favorites was International Innovation Corps. They are doing really great work, and I think they'll share the link to the website as well. So these are a few of the many companies that are collaborating with Kcdh for their internships as well. So maybe you can enroll in Kcdh and talk with them. So that's about it from my side.
Thank you, Akshat. So that was with the presentations from our speakers. Now we'll take a discussion to the IEEE side of IEEE opportunity at Kcdh. And I would like to direct my questions to the speakers who are pursuing IEEE, the dual degree program in healthcare informatics. So what were the reasons and motives that led you to pursue a dual degree in healthcare informatics? And how do you think will it complement your bachelor's degree? So I would request Chirag to begin with this.
Yeah, hi. So my bachelor's degree was in mathematics, right? And my favorite subject in mathematics, so I don't know if you'll all get this, but it was something called measure theory, right? And I spent so much time on that topic, and I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that measure theory was probably there is a fundamental. The fundamental part of statistics is completely probability theory, right? Everything is based on probability theory. And now probability theory is nothing but measure theory restated. So that was me entering into statistics, right? And then into healthcare. So there's also a really big boom about data science, right, in the recent years. But what good is data science without insightful data and some data that is helpful to say it creates the maximum benefit, right? And I guess healthcare, it basically encapsulates all of that. And there's also this additional thing. So the data that you're working on, you have to be extremely careful, and you should try not to make mistakes, because mistakes are in the healthcare field can be a very big, it's a very big bane. So that's also one more thing to consider. And I like to work under these conditions, right? So that was my motivation, and I'm sure, and I really love the projects that have taken over. And I'm also going to be doing a project with Professor Suli Mukhopadhyay. It's regarding acute kidney injury, and I am going to be using a lot of machine learning there also. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chirag. Akshat, would you like to take up the question?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question was that what motivated you to take a dual degree in healthcare informatics, and how do you think it will complement your bachelor's degree?
So yeah, like I said that I did an internship and that was combining ML with healthcare, and I found it really interesting. And my prof also introduced me to more stuff she's doing around, and I then researched a bit, and then I felt like this field is actually gonna boom pretty soon. And then like it shared my slide as well, that the number of research papers that have been coming along this field have really increased in the past few years. So that's definitely one of my motivations. And how would it complement my field? My field is material science currently, and I'm more of interested in application of machine learning in material science. So the sensor that we have been working on, the accelerometer, uh, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. So the sensor I've been working on, it's more of application of different materials so that we can sense the body readings more perfectly. So yeah, so this was more about my project, but although I think that it's not very closely related to my bachelor's degree, but yeah, my work is all material science and coding and healthcare. That's about it.
Okay, thank you, Akshay. So, to sum up our discussion, I would request all speakers to let us know that what will be their further course of action in this field and how do they see it going forward. So, we'll begin with Chirag.
Yeah, hi. So I just saw a question here. It was by Utkarsh. It says, like, were you working with your DD supervisor before the department developed? So I was very lucky in my case because a professor in the mathematics department was in the committee for CDH. So I could just easily approach her and she told me all about it. And so that happened in my case. So Akshat can maybe say about his case and about my plans for the future. So I would, I've always been intrigued by data, right? And this data, so I already presented to you what about my BS project, so which was basically classifying ALL, and I really want to take up that as a very serious project, and maybe because it has immense potential, and I can maybe also contribute to the field of healthcare in some way, maybe to the field of cancer research, right? Because there is doctors. I just explained why doctors can't find every subtle difference, and we need to use computers. So maybe we can backtrack from artificial intelligence onto diagnostic criteria, and using this we can diagnose cancer at a better rate, and maybe we can there's also a disorder called myelodysplasia, which is a precursor to cancer, right? So if we analyze how the cells look like in cancer in ALL, we can maybe predict the course of cancer in dysplasia patients. So that was one project, and the other project I'm doing is in acute kidney injury, and I'll also be creating measurements. So sorry, it's metrics. Sorry, metrics to differentiate between chronic kidney disease and acute kidney disease. So that is my DDP, and I would like and the main also the motivating factor was that the data that I'm using right now, it has a big tail to it. So I cannot fake information. I cannot cheat in any way because I am obliged to the field of healthcare. So that's my motivation and my future plans.
Thank you, Chirag. So, Prakriti, would you like to let us know your future plans?
Yeah, so my plans are pretty short term and I have a long way to go before I decide my career. But yeah, so the primary thing obviously is to complete the minor. And I was looking at the courses the other day, and there are some pretty interesting CS courses coming up. So I'm excited for those. And apart from that, yeah, I'm trying to build a base in programming right now through internships and potential like projects. I might take up projects in the summer. But yeah, so I'm trying to build a base in programming, and again, we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah.
Thank you, Prakriti. Akshit, would you like to let us know your future plans?
Yes. So I'm pretty interested in research. So I might go for a PhD in this field. Many top universities, in fact, offer PhD programs in healthcare informatics specifically. So yeah, so let's see how it goes.
Okay, thank you, Akshit. Finally, Siddhant, would you like to let us know your future plans and how do you see it going forward in this field?
Yeah, so as I've said, like drug discovery and personalized medicine are the fields that I want to get into the most, irrespective of how I get to it. So I'll be exploring courses which are relevant to this, which are there in the Kcdh minor program, as well as those which are broadly healthcare informatics oriented, such as those that will equip me with the analytical skills to deal with complex biological data. And I think I like to understand something on the ethics and policy side also, preferably hands-on. So I'm willing to explore that too, because these have implications in healthcare today as well as the pharma sector. So yeah, these are things that I really want to explore and how they will assist me in my journey towards that goal. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Siddhant. So this was our presentation. Now we'll be taking up questions that you all had put up in the registration form and also from the chat box. So firstly, we'll begin with the question on is there any skill set required or any prerequisites to take up this field? There is a lot of myth around biology being a necessity. So I would like my speakers to address the question.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll start with it. Chirag, you can go after me, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So biology is never a prerequisite. So there are some people who have taken bio in 11th and 12th. I was not one of them. So it's basically like, you should have an interest in that field, like you're willing to learn. Learning, there's no bar to learning. So you can always learn on the go. And that's what our professors and all tell us. So we started with like absolute basics. We did, I think, I don't know if I mentioned it in my PPT, but we had this whole part where we're doing ontology as well. So we started with the basics of the body systems and what are all the vocab and the ontology used there. So we got a pretty good idea of the human anatomy through that module of the course. And so it's never like it has to be a prerequisite. It's just that you should be interested enough to apply your skills in that domain. So yeah, maybe the other speakers could add on to it. Chirag, if you want to say.
Yeah, Prakriti actually hit the nail on the head. So I guess the prerequisite would be a good knowledge of mathematics. I mean, just basic mathematics, right? Just what a mean is, what a standard deviation is, and just basic mathematics. And you have to have the motivation. You need to be interested enough in the field to apply the skills. So you may have whatever skills that you have. Say you're a chemical engineer and you might be interested in drug delivery, right? And so you need to be interested enough to apply those skills here. So when I presented earlier, right, I said I was okay. I showed you uh, the ALL positive cells, right? And I need to. So when you have to research and like, say why this cell is ALL positive, and when you need to explain it to a doctor, you need to bring up quantifiable metrics, right? So for that, you need to know a little bit of biology. So you need to know a little bit about the mechanism. But that is very interesting. You can actually learn it because that is just going to be a 1%, less than a 1% content of your BV 101 course. But it's at the same time, it's interesting because it's something that you want to learn, and that's something that will help you also to contribute. So yeah, that would be sufficient, I guess. There is no need for you to know the entire of. Nobody's going to test you on BB 101 here. Everything will be taught from scratch, but you just need to have the interest and the motivation. That's it.
Oh, thank you, Chirag. So the other two speakers, would they like to comment on this?
No, I think it's very well summed up by the both of them. So yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Hi.
So we'll now take up the questions from the chat. So the speakers, they can take up the questions individually, which were directed to them. So we can begin with whoever is ready. So I think the first question was directed to Siddharth. Would you like to take it up?
Yeah, Sanjot, yeah. So I
Yeah.
have actually talked to him in private, so I have told him because these are confidential information. So yeah, thanks Sanjot for the question.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, it was interesting.
And there was a question by Utkarsh to Akshit and Chirag. Uh, Akshit, would you like to take it up? I think Chirag had answered it.
No. I wasn't working with my DT supervisor before getting selected. Actually, I was doing this internship, and that got me interested in the field. And then, coincidentally, this course was launched, and I looked into it, and I loved the project. So I just took. All of this actually happened in a matter of, I think, 3 to 4 days.
Thank you, Akshit. So this was all from our side, and I hope that this session was interesting and you people enjoyed. And I thank all the speakers who took their precious time out and come and put their efforts in to make this session a success. Thank you to all the attendees for making it till the end. Thank you. Okay, we have a question.
Yeah, I just have one question. Yeah, it's directed to Akshat. So you said you would like to do a PhD in healthcare informatics. So can you tell us what are the fields which what are the subfields of the current research in healthcare informatics which you can do a PhD in?
Yeah. So, like I showed you in the slide, Google is working on eye diseases, and I think Stanford is working on cancer, cancer prediction. Uh, I think, Harvard has a school for healthcare informatics. I haven't looked them at I haven't looked at it very clearly, but yeah, several top schools offer PhD programs. I guess we can get in touch later on. I'll let you know the specific details if you're interested as well.
Okay, yeah, that works. Thank you, Akshat.
Thank you. So do we have any other questions? Okay, I once again thank all the speakers and attendees for making it to the session and making it a success. We'll now end the session. The recording will be shared with all of you.